statement, not what.
When we have to show the strain patterns and stuff, are we showing it with the bones, or are we showing?
Yeah, you're going to show the strain patterns with the bones, and when you do the techniques, you can do it on the skull, or on the person, or your instructor may instruct you to do one or the other. So when you're looking at strain patterns, so what's a torsion? You guys show me with your phantom head what a right torsion looks like.
No idea.
Torsion.
Try. No. Clearly you're wrong. Clearly the back rate of your Okay, so a right torsion. A torsion is like a like opening up a jar. So a right torsion is your right hand goes up or your right finger goes up. And really what's happening with that, and if you want I can turn the system on and focus in on this, but I suggest you hold these bones just like you would see the patient. So I'm facing it for you as if this is your patient laying in front of you. You can always remember that there's a big hole where the spinal cord comes out, so that'll help you. All right. There is where you have the sphenoid, where you have this kind of slide part of the sphenoid that attaches to the slide part of the occiput. Okay. So this is as if this patient is laying in front of you. So when you get a torsion, what happens is, it's a whole lot easier to just do it instead of think through it, right? What happens is you are getting a, make sure I say this right. You are getting these two bones to move along this axis that runs this way through here. So if you're looking at that axis, what would that be? Now you got to take this head and put it in an anatomical position. It's an AP axis. Okay? Do you guys see that? Do you see what I mean? So they rotate around the AP axis. Do they rotate the same or opposite?
Opposite.
Opposite. So this sphenoid, wing of the sphenoid, or we're always referring it to the base of the sphenoid or the basal sphenoid, is where it's coming from. Oftentimes these move in the same direction, but there's a couple that don't. Okay, so as this rotates upward, then you're going to get that sensation of this torsion. Get that? Yes?
For the camera, are you just working with cameras, or we have them show models?
You guys show the models. And we have the bones here, so we each have a set of two bones.
I still have a hard time with feeling it. Are you feeling as they go into the flexion extension that it?
No, the strain pattern is separate than flexion extension. Basically, when you're looking at cranial, when you know, we have to teach you a certain way so you can start to develop that feel. But then when we assess people, what I do is I sit down at the table, I put my hands on the patient, and right away I just try to get onto the rhythm. Now sometimes I put my hands on their patient and right away I'm in a right torsion. Without me doing anything, this is what I feel. This is what I feel. So if that's what I feel, I'm pretty sure they have a big right torsion. Now I can test that strain pattern by lifting my left hand into a left torsion, and it won't go that way. It'll go where it wants to go, and it won't go the opposite. Okay? So, for example, you might sit down on a patient, and if it's not a bad strain, you may get your hands on them, and the first thing you feel is the cranial rhythm, the flexion extension part of that. And then as you're assessing that more, you're kind of looking at it a little bit deeper. You're kind of like, okay, there's motion, that's good. You can pick up the rate of that motion, which we're not requiring you to do. And then you can start to test strain patterns. And so you might test a right torsion, you go, oh wow, that moves really easy. Is that really a torsion? Well, if you test the left and that moves really easy, then it's not really a torsion, they just have good motion bilaterally. But if you test the left and it doesn't move, and you test the right and it moves really easily, then that's a right torsion. Does that make sense? Okay, go ahead.
Just to clarify, you always name it after where it wants to go.
Correct. Correct.
So this and side rotations are physiological constants. When do you do that makes it physiological? Like I know it's like staggered walking, you know, like
yeah.
big energy take. When is this like a normal thing to happen?
If you have a scoliosis, then oftentimes you have a torsion.
Okay.
Because of the curve throughout the spine, it carries up through the skull. So when you have a scoliosis, oftentimes, let's just make it easy. This doesn't always happen, but let's say your scoliotic curve is really due to a short leg. Okay, so you can see with a short leg on the left, say, your pelvis is tilted to the left, your sacrum is tilted to the left, well, the occiput will typically tilt to the left. So you might have a right torsion.
What about side bending and rotation? That's supposed to be like too, but.
I don't know. It might be just the muscle tightness that pulls the one side together, but sorry, I can't give you a good answer to that. Okay, so you kind of got torsions. So the phantom head is almost easier in my mind than thinking about what the bones do. Unfortunately, you have to show us what the bones do. So you might want to show us the phantom head and then move on to the bones. Might be a suggestion. Doesn't mean you have to do that. Okay, a lateral strain. Now in a lateral strain, we're looking at two vertical axes, okay? And we're having the bones shift in which way? Show me a lateral strain. Lena knows this one. It's actually, it's when they're laying in front of you, so your one hand goes up, the other hand goes down, vice versa. So, right lateral strain for me, right lateral strain, left lateral strain. So these two bones are actually, going through these two axes, okay, which when you stand the patient up is a vertical axis, and they're rotating in the same direction. Oh, I did that wrong. They're rotating in the same direction, okay? So they're doing this. This is a, which lateral strain? Left lateral strain. Okay? Yeah.
Is there an easy way to explain why that causes your hand to go up?
Because if you were to put your finger here, it would feel like your hand went up. You see that?
We're not diagnosing it.
We're doing a skull.
So we're just picking it out.
Yep. On these bones. So you don't have to put your hands on a head and do it because they might not have that, so it's not going to be easy for you to touch it. Plus, we don't want to mess up people's heads. Yeah.
So then what's the difference between a lateral strain and a torsion?
A torsion, what was the difference?
They go in opposite directions?
Well, it's like your hands both.
Your
like,
axis
your hands
is
going up the
different.
same side.
What's happening is you're doing this. The bones are moving in opposite directions and it's through an AP axis as opposed to two vertical axes.
Will you show how that makes your hands go like this? Like I don't.
A torsion?
Yeah. Like.
Other than somebody putting their hands on here, there's no way for me to show you that. Do you see how this is where your right index finger is. This is where your right what do you call it, pinky is. So as you do that, what you're going to feel is this kind of motion, this twist, because the bones don't shift back and forth because they're pretty fused together there. They have motion, right? Okay. So then you get this motion versus that motion, and so it'll feel because of the way this is shaped, it'll feel like that coming up towards the ceiling more.
So
I don't know.
going
Does that make
posterior.
sense to you guys?
Would that be a right?
This would be a right torsion. Does that make sense?
Yes. So
This is the right one
together.
also?
This is right lateral straight. Okay, so obviously these bones aren't going to come apart like this, but I'm trying to make it more obvious for you to see that rotation or that.
Does the right torsion come back towards you or away from you?
Your finger goes up towards the ceiling, so it goes towards you.
Bone. Does it go this way or this way?
Towards you.
Comes towards you.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, then in that case, if you're doing the motion, you're going to hit your right side first, which means it's going to point up, and then you're going to hit the left side longer, so your finger's going to point down. It's like
Well, your
having-
right finger is pointing up and your left finger is pointing down.
in the right side. Because it's like having a fulcrum. As you get closer, it points up higher.
Towards you, correct.
So that's what the bone's doing. It's not actually getting higher. It's just your fingers.
Correct.